Hello everyone, today I will introduce to you the movie The Day After Tomorrow. A movie about a natural disaster in American film industry with full of suspenseful scenes. Let's start. Nobody knows how this extreme weather was formed. Nor does anyone know why Tokyo had a giant hailstorm, accompanied by giant fire hoses and hundreds of meters high tsunami waves. It seems that the Earth is saying that humans are about to face extinction. The story begins in a remote Antarctic region. A survey team was drilling ice to take samples. Suddenly, the ice broke and the older brother along with the equipment fell down. Colleagues rushed to help and finally pulled him out, but the drilling machine had fallen down the ice hole. To protect the ice samples, Professor Jack tried to jump over the crack on the other side, but the ice layer continued to collapse. He tried his best to jump back, but the ice at the spot where he stood kept collapsing, making him fall down. Luckily, Jack reacted in time with an ice axe in his hand and saved his life, but the ice still kept cracking, indicating that a dreadful disaster was approaching. A few days later, Jack stood on the podium to give a speech. His point of view on global warming was expressed through research results of ice samples, along with other causes such as excessive resource exploitation. Earth is at risk of returning to the Ice Age. His speech made the whole audience laugh out loud. Even the vice president thought that Jack's prediction was not realistic. Hello everyone, today I will introduce to you the movie The Day After Tomorrow. A movie about a natural disaster in American film industry with full of suspenseful scenes. Let's start. Nobody knows how this extreme weather was formed. Nor does anyone know why Tokyo had a giant hailstorm, accompanied by giant fire hoses and hundreds of meters high tsunami waves. It seems that the Earth is saying that humans are about to face extinction. The story begins in a remote Antarctic region. A survey team was drilling ice to take samples. Suddenly, the ice broke and the older brother along with the equipment fell down. Colleagues rushed to help and finally pulled him out, but the drilling machine had fallen down the ice hole. To protect the ice samples, Professor Jack tried to jump over the crack on the other side, but the ice layer continued to collapse. He tried his best to jump back, but the ice at the spot where he stood kept collapsing, making him fall down. Luckily, Jack reacted in time with an ice axe in his hand and saved his life, but the ice still kept cracking, indicating that a dreadful disaster was approaching. 3. A few days later, Jack stood on the podium to give a speech. His point of view on global warming was expressed through research results of ice samples, along with other causes such as excessive resource exploitation. Earth is at risk of returning to the Ice Age. His speech made the whole audience laugh out loud. Even the vice president thought that Jack's prediction was not realistic. New York City has been experiencing heavy rainfall for 3 consecutive days, causing all the streets to be flooded. The cars stopped and formed long lines. All the animals were uneasy. Some wolves have escaped from the zoo, as if they can sense the impending disaster. Suddenly, a tsunami appeared. The Statue of Liberty was quickly submerged in water, and the water overflowed into the city. At this moment, Laura saw a mother and child trapped in a car. She immediately turned back to help, but the terrible tsunami had arrived and started to engulf the entire city. Seeing the giant wave in front of them, Sam didn't hesitate, quickly pulling Laura to run. When they got to the library's door, a rush of water rushed in, swallowing everything. After the tsunami passed, people found that all their phones had no signal. Sam risked going down to the flooded phone station to contact his father. Finally, he was able to connect with his dad. Hearing that his son was safe, Jack breathed a sigh of relief. But now was the beginning of the freezing cold. He told Sam to stay put in the shelter and find a way to keep warm. Otherwise, everyone would freeze in seconds. Jack promised to come and rescue his son. However, at that time, Sam was already submerged in water. Laura was extremely worried and couldn't even see Sam's figure. Just as she thought something had happened to him, he suddenly appeared. Laura quickly found dry clothes and changed for him. She even took off her own coat and used her body heat to warm him up. Then they distributed the clothes they found to everyone, preparing to cope with the severe cold. Suddenly, a dog barked loudly. Everyone looked and saw a large ship appeared. Jack knew that a storm was approaching, but he still managed to pack his luggage for a 400-kilometer journey to New York to save his son. Before he left, Jack received news that the president wanted to meet him. When he arrived at the president's office, the president drew a line. Those below this line must evacuate to the south to survive, while those above the line must stay indoors to keep warm and survive. The situation was all due to the vice president's mistake. If he had listened to Jack before, there wouldn't be so many people still not evacuated now. Jack left immediately after speaking and began his journey to save his son. In New York, the temperature dropped steadily, the seawater outside had frozen, and many people were evacuating to the south. A police officer called on everyone to form a team and head to the south. Sam understood that going outside now was no different than entering a death trap. He convinced the police to tell everyone to stay behind, but the other side refused to listen. They were worried that staying here, they would have no food or aid, and it would be like waiting to die. After speaking, the police led everyone away. Most of them followed the police, only a few stayed behind. Then, they began to collect necessary items, smash vending machines for food, and gather books to use as fuel. If civilization no longer existed, no one would be able to pass on these knowledge. Jack and his companion were nearing their destination. However, the snowstorm blocked their sight, causing their car to crash. Luckily, they were all unharmed but now had to walk only 40 kilometers. In the blizzard, they were unaware that they were walking on the roof of a shopping center. Suddenly, the glass cracked, and the car behind them was too heavy and fell, dragging them down. Jack reacted quickly, using an ice axe to cling to the ice, but they were all still in danger. Then, the glass below Jason began to crack, and he was still hanging in midair. Jack tried his best to save him, but Jason cut the rope with a knife. He knew that the glass would break any moment, and he didn't want them both to be affected, so he chose to cut the rope. Seeing that, Jack screamed in agony. They had all come here to help him save his son. After suppressing his grief, the two continued to find a way out. At this point, Jason could no longer go on. He staggered and then passed out. On the other hand, Laura didn't wake up after fainting. A few days before helping others, she unfortunately hurt her foot. They knew from the books that she was infected. If not treated, she could die. Sam decided to go to the ship outside, risking his life to save Laura. The medicine cabinet on the ship surely had the cure. His two friends also decided to go with him, and they made it to the boat. After searching for a while, they finally found the medicine. However, they did not expect that some wolf dogs had picked up their scent. The pack of wolf dogs followed them. These were the same wolf dogs that had escaped from the zoo before. The famine had made them fierce. When they spotted the pack of wolf dogs, one of their friends was bitten. Fortunately, Sam succeeded in chasing away the hungry wolf dogs, but they were locked inside the room. Sam noticed the snowstorm outside had calmed down. He knew they were in the eye of the storm. If they didn't hurry back, they would freeze to death here. After thinking it over, Sam grabbed a knife and decided to leave through the window. He tricked the wolf dogs outside and ran down to the lower floor. The hungry wolf chased after him. Thankfully, he managed to get out and trap the wolf inside. Then, he climbed back up and brought his two friends back using the rescue raft to carry the injured one. Now, the sky suddenly turned blue in a strange way. Sam knew they had little time left because the storm was right above them. The frigid air began to cover the ground. Within a blink of an eye, everything began to freeze. The entire building's glass started to crack. The ice was chasing after them. They used all their might and finally arrived at the warm room. But now, the ice had covered the large door. They tried to burn more books to keep the fire going, which was their only hope of survival. At this moment, next to Jack, he felt the disaster coming. He immediately opened a ventilated room and lowered his unconscious friend down. He quickly jumped down afterwards and timely made a fire to keep warm for the night. After Jason woke up, the two continued their journey. On the way, many people were frozen, and the group that left the previous library also died here. At this time, the space station announced good news. The final storm had disappeared. Jack came out of the tent. The sunlight shone on them, and in front of him was a sunken large ship, along with the Statue of Liberty frozen. The two walked in the pure white snow until they reached the designated location. Jackson confirmed that the library was located at their feet. But the early snow had buried this place. Jack didn't want to give up. He continued to search and found that the library was not completely buried. They carefully entered inside. He loudly called his son's name, hoping for a response, but there was no one. They continued searching until they saw a light coming from a room. They opened the door and saw their son, Sam, sleeping peacefully, and everyone here was safe. Seeing his father standing in front of him, Sam was extremely proud. Father and son were reunited. The president received news that Jack was still alive and immediately sent a rescue team to assist. Looking down from the helicopter, they discovered that many people were still alive. The sunlight shone down, and everyone was waiting for new hope. The film ends here. If you enjoyed it, please give me a like,